Right, in this video we're going to look at a couple of pencil sketching techniques that can help you, especially if you're a beginner and you have no idea where to start. So what I thought would be a cool idea is to start it in the context of the color wheel, because when you're trying to blend colors together, the color wheel is super important. So what we're going to start with is just drawing a nice big circle in the center of our page. I've just traced around the bottom of a bowl, so if you want to grab something like that, it will help you get a nice circle. And now we want to divide it into 6 pieces, kind of imagining like you're cutting up a pizza. So I'm going to divide mine in half at first. Guesstimate where halfway through that line is, and we'll make that the center of our circle. So from there we want to divide each section into 3. Doesn't matter if it's not perfectly equally distributed, we're just using it as a reference for ourselves. So it doesn't matter if it's not a perfect circle that's equally divided. And what we're going to do is start with our 3 primary colors. So the 3 primary colors are blue, red and yellow. So get your blue, red and yellow pencil crayons out. So I thought while we are looking at the color wheel, we can also look at different pencil sketching techniques to use. So I'm going to start with my blue, and I'm going to do it in this nice big one that I've got here. And the first pencil coloring in technique that I'm going to show you is called hatching. Now hatching is just simply little lines, drawing little lines that are next to each other. Now my table is a little uneven and it's showing in my pencil sketching, and this is just a little tip. Make sure that you always press on a book or a page, and that will just make sure that your coloring is nice and smooth and you don't pick up the texture of the table that you're drawing on. Another thing we need to think about is going from dark shading to light shading, because you want to create different tones when you're coloring in with a pencil crayon. So with our hatching, which is just little lines, I'm pressing really hard at the bottom of this color wheel, and as I'm getting to the outside edge, I'm going to slowly press lighter and lighter. And as you're doing this, I want you to make sure that you're making it a gradual change. So I don't want to see a dark section and then a medium section and a light section. It should just be a slow, gradual change, letting it get lighter and lighter. And that is just simply pencil control. So the lighter you press, the lighter your coloring will be. And it's just a matter of practicing how to slowly change that. Now the reason we have different pencil sketching or pencil crayon techniques, these are the same as pencil sketching techniques by the way, is they create different textures and make people think of different things. Like this one, when I see it, it makes me think of the ocean, a nice flat day on the ocean. So these horizontal lines, the hatching, could be a good texture for a lake or a river that's nice and calm. Okay, and I'm just going to write that at the top as a note for myself. This is called hatching. Right, so I'm going to turn my page around and I'm just going to leave one out and color in my next one. I'm going to make it that red. And I'm going to do a technique now called cross hatching. So that just means lines going in 2 directions. Our hatching is just lines going in 1 direction. To do our cross hatching, we need to go in 2 directions. And these 2 directions are usually 90 degrees or exact opposites. So it creates lots of little crosses. Now it can be trickier to do our dark to light shading with this, but we're going to give it a try. So the further apart you make your lines and the lighter you press, the lighter your color will be at the end. I like to start with the one end, or the one line first, and then switch to the other. So where I want my shading to be darker, I'm pressing harder, and I'm making my lines closer together. And as I go out and try to create lighter lines, I'm making my lines further apart and pressing even lighter. So an example of something that you might want to color in with a cross-hatching technique would be a fishing net or netting on a ballerina's dress. Okay, and when you're doing pencil shading, you need to go back and work it a couple of times. So it doesn't necessarily come out perfectly the first time you try it. You've got to go back and make the change more gradual, maybe add more shading, or with a pencil crayon you can even use an eraser and lighten some shading if you would like to. So an eraser to a certain extent will work on a pencil crayon if you're doing shading. Okay, and this technique is called cross hatching. Again, we're going to leave out a space and colour in our third primary colour, which is yellow. And for this, we're going to use a technique called scrambling or scribbling. That is pretty much what it sounds like. So I'm just pressing really hard and scribbling in lots of different directions. And as I want to lighten the shading, I'm just lightening the pressure that I'm pressing on the page with. And similar to the cross-hatching, make those lines further apart and press lighter to create a lighter tone. And then the opposite is obviously true. When you want to create the darker tone, you press harder and make the lines closer together. This technique works really well if you want to do a bush in the distance. So shrubbery and bushes look great with this scrambling technique. For really dark tones with this, you would even just colour it in. So you have a solid colour that slowly moves out to scrambling. And that is called scrambling, or scribbling is the other word used to describe it. Okay, so our three primary colours cannot be made by mixing other colours together. So if you're going to use only three colours to colour in a picture, you probably need these three colours because you can't make them. If we mixed blue and yellow together, we would get green. I'm just going to colour in with my green for this next technique, and I'm going to use both of my greens. So I'm going to start with a dark green and a light green. So this is going to illustrate how we can blend two colours together. And the shading technique that we're going to use is smooth shading. This would be how you colour in somebody's skin, probably. So you want it to look nice and smooth, or a piece of silk. And we're going to start with our darker green at the bottom. And again, as I've been doing before, I'm starting by pressing really hard and slowly pressing lighter. So when you are blending two colours together, if you press hard with one colour, you do not leave much space for another colour to join in with it. But the lighter you press, the more space you leave for another colour. So what I'm doing is, as I get to the outside edge, I'm leaving more and more space for another colour to join in. Now when you do this, it's better to do a couple of layers of light colouring than to try and go from dark to light. So just keep going over your shading. And I like to colour in several different directions. So instead of just colouring in one direction like in hatching, if you do a couple of different directions, it helps to layer the colour. So I've started with my first colour, then I've gone from pressing really hard, so not leaving any space for another colour, to pressing quite lightly. Right, and what I'm going to do now is on the outside edge, I'm going to start with my lighter colour, and here I'm pressing really hard, so not leaving much space for the other colour. And as I come in, I'm pressing lighter and lighter and helping the colours marry together. Now you can see when I'm colouring in, I'm using the side of my pencil, so I'm not colouring in with the point. I've got my pencil almost parallel to the page. Okay, so a lot of the pencil is on the page and there's less pressure, so it helps the colour go on more smoothly. Okay, and again, I'm doing it in more than one direction. This is just because all paper has some kind of a texture to it and a couple of lumps and bumps. And if you only colour in one direction, you're only getting the one edge of the lump or the bump. But by colouring in several directions, you can get all of the sides of the page. Okay, and now I'm going with my dark green again. And as I want the colour to be lighter, I'm pressing lighter. So when you are mixing two colours together, and in particular going from a dark tone to a light tone, you need to go over it several times. So it's not necessarily going to blend together perfectly the first time you try. Okay, so this effect is blending or layering the colours. And this is a big part of pencil crayon drawing or colouring in with pencil crayons, because unless you have a gigantic set of pencil crayons, you're never going to find the perfect colour to match the thing that you are drawing. You are going to have to blend several different colours together. Right, and this colour is called a secondary colour because it is made by mixing two primary colours together. So let's go on to our second secondary colour, and that's going to be purple. To create this colour, I'm going to mix two different colours together. So in this blending technique, we went from a dark green to a light green. What we're going to do for this one is mix two different colours together. So we're going to mix our blue and our red together and see if we can create a purple. Now, the more blue you add to this, the more blue the purple is going to look. And then the more red you add, the more red the purple will look. So it will be either more of an indigo colour or more of a maroon colour. So that's a good thing to learn, is if you're trying to match a color exactly, does that purple have more blue in it or does it have more red in it? And the only way that you learn that is by practicing blending the colors together and learning what works, especially with your set of pencil crayons, because every set of pencil crayons can be slightly different. So to match my colors together, I'm going to start with more blue on the left-hand side where my blue is. So I'm pressing quite hard with my blue here, and I'm slowly getting lighter with the blue. Again, I'm not coloring in one direction, I'm coloring in several directions. Okay, and by the time we get to the red block, we should be almost not pressing on it. So this is going to be quite a red purple, or more of a maroon color. Okay, so again, I'm starting with my dark shading and getting lighter and lighter slowly, just putting less pressure on the page. Okay, now let's go from the other side with our red. At first, I'm just starting with some light red coloring. So I'm going to slowly build on this. Okay, so I'm just pressing lightly over everything, going in different directions. Okay, and I'm going to press a little harder with my red on the red side of my shading and slowly reduce the pressure as I get to the center. Okay, I'm going to now move back to my blue. So just layering the colors one on top of each other is going to help them blend into each other and create different shades of purple. Okay, then go back with your red. Because we've already done a layer of red, you can press a little harder from the beginning now. Slowly lighten it as you get to the blue side. So it's always good to start off more cautiously, and then as the color is getting there, you can press a little harder. Okay, and you can see in this picture we've created several different tones of a purple color. Okay, so that's blending different colors. The final technique I'm going to show you is going to be called stippling. This is also our final secondary color. So if you mixed red and yellow together, you would get orange. We're going to use orange for our stippling. And stippling is really just putting dots on a page. And again, it's just pressing really hard and making the dots close together to get our dark tones, and then pressing lighter and making the dots further apart to get the lighter tones. Right, stippling can look great if you are doing beach sand or a gravel path, especially if you use more than one color. So if I was doing beach sand, I would do some light shading with a light brown and then stipple over it with a dark brown and a light brown and maybe even a yellow. And that gives you that nice effect or texture. These are just 6 simple pencil crayon shading techniques and a little bit of color theory to help you with your blending. Hope you find it really helpful. If you are just starting out on pencil crayon sketching, maybe you want to try our next video coming out where we apply these different textures to a picture and you can see it in context that'll make a little bit more sense. Hope you enjoyed my video. Please hit the like button if you did, and why not subscribe to our channel? We put up new videos every week.